This phone right here it's been great. Let's talk about it. The Google Pixel Fold has been the shock and awe factor that I've needed in my day-to-day use with smartphones in quite some time. Everything about this device is just fantastic. From the great quality of pictures like what I'm showing you guys right now on screen with the different shots that I've taken, to the video quality that you guys are seeing right now from the main shooter. And most importantly, the biggest feature, which is the display, the large, big, and beautiful foldable display. I've got so many feelings and emotions and thoughts about the device, so let's go ahead and talk about the Fold Pixel style. Now, before getting into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to mention just what options you have when it comes to purchasing the Google Pixel Fold. You have plenty of colors and flavors. Not really, all you have is porcelain and black, which is Obsidian Black, what I chose. And then as far as storage, you have 256 or 512 gigs to choose from. The 256 gigs comes in at $1,800 here in the US, and the 512 comes in at, I believe, $1,920. I am purchasing this device myself. No one sent this to me, so this is all me, unless Google wants to travel back in time and send me a couple bucks. That being said, I did happen to get a great deal on AT&T by just adding a new line, and I got the phone for half off. So all of this is just to say that this is not a sponsor. I'm spending my dollar. This is my money. I need it now. I want my money back now. AT&T. Google. Please. Sponsor. This folding device is top tier. The Google Pixel Fold honestly is neck to neck to neck to other flagship devices, specifically talking the Samsungs and the iPhones of the world. I actually did an unboxing and first impressions of the device, and I put it next to the S22 Ultra and my iPhone 13 Pro Max, and I lay them out flat just to see that it's on par with, as far as looks and physical design and quality, it looks very premium. Like I said, top tier. So we've got a cornering Gorilla Glass Victus back with a polished aluminum frame and a fingerprint resistant coating for us smudgy humans. Wash your hands. Along with that, there is a mirror polished stainless steel hinge, multi-alloy steel construction, and custom dual axis design. We've got IPX8 water resistance. For those of you that aren't aware of what that means, first off, the phone is submersible in water up to 1 meter. That's what the 8 means. Now, the X in IPX8 means that it is not dust or sand proof resistant. It's kryptonite essentially. So best believe that when I took this shot here at the beach, I was very anxious because it is a beautiful device. I don't want a grain of sand to kill it. We've got ourselves a David and Goliath situation here. So if you happen to live on a beach, play on the beach every day, all day, or just, you know, you work within construction that is very dusty or sandy, or you're in a sandstorm and that's your daily thing to do, get another phone. You'll have to take precautious measures to not let any sand or dust get into the hinges or into the phone itself. They do make cases to help with that problem. So, I mean, you're not completely out of luck. You just have to take a couple of extra steps is all. Alrighty. Quick change up and just note, this was initially meant to be a 3-month review on the Google Pixel Fold, but life happens and this has now become, as the title says, a 6-month review, hence why my hair is longer and the setup looks a little different. But nonetheless, let's continue with the rest of the review. Displays. All right, first let's talk about the front display, the outer display on the Google Pixel Fold. Spec-wise, we have a 5.8-inch front display with an aspect ratio of 4:9, Full HD Plus with 2092 by 1080 OLED at 408 pixels per inch, a refresh rate of up to 120 Hz, Corning Gorilla Glass Victus on the cover display, always on display with at-a-glance and now playing, a peak brightness of 1550 nits, and HDR support. Now, the first thing that I wanted to mention about the Google Pixel Fold's front display is just how good it is. It's literally on par with your flagship devices as far as candy bars, and so there is no compromise. From size, quality of screen, and even the aspect ratio. What I've seen with Samsung's foldable devices is that you unfortunately have to give up a comfortable front display in order to get that larger inner display, and thankfully that's not the case when it comes to the Fold. I honestly don't see myself needing, and the keyword is need, but needing to open the phone to really do anything other than enjoy, I guess, a movie on a larger display, because the front display is able to literally take care of all my wants and needs when it comes to using my phone. My hands don't feel cramped whenever I text on it or message anybody. The apps that I utilize, they don't look funky or awkwardly shaped at all. And when it comes to watching YouTube videos, it's more than enough for me to go ahead and enjoy a binge-a-thon. That's right, a binge-a-thon. And that's about it. There really isn't much to say about the front display because it does what you'd expect any phone to do. So we can leave it at that and go on to what we really want to talk about, which is the inner display. Let's talk about the big one. All right, spec-wise, we got ourselves a 7.6-inch inner display with an aspect ratio of 6:5, 2208 by 1840 OLED at 380 ppi, pixels per inch. A refresh rate of up to 120 Hz, ultra-thin glass with a protective plastic layer acting essentially as your screen protector. Always on display with at a glance and now playing, peak brightness of 1450 nits, and HDR support. The inner display is the reason why I purchased the Pixel Fold. I mean, come on, not only do you have a larger display to enjoy your movies on, but one that folds and fits in your pocket, therefore taking up less pocket space, therefore having a tablet in your pocket? Come on, like that's duh. And sure, it has chunky bezels, but that doesn't really take away from the beauty of the display itself. I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of just get used to. So most of what I do on the inner display honestly just consists of media consumption. So a lot of Crunchyroll, Netflix, YouTube, you get the picture. I do try to edit as well on the inner display because it does give you a bigger timeline to work with, and you know, that bigger timeline just makes our edits a little quicker. Other things that I may do on the inner display is perhaps share photos, like physically show someone a larger version of a photo, scripting on Notion, so that way I have way more text to read and or type, and then anything that's honestly optimized like Google Calendars or Teams. Aside from that, the unfortunate truth is that there aren't a lot of apps that are optimized for the inner display, hence why I tend to just not use it as often. So for example, social medias, right? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. You can't really use it without getting the sidebars. Looks really awkward, but you can rotate the device sideways, which fills in those gaps. But for me, the phone just feels really awkward and not as ergonomic, or maybe it's just the weight distribution. It's not as comfortable to use like that. One big downside to the inner display is the glares that it tends to catch, especially when you're outside. So it's more of an issue outside because of the amount of light, and depending on the day if it's really sunny, but the amount of light that it can capture. Indoors, it's never really a problem unless you're directly underneath a light source, which even then I feel like you'd have to be looking at the device from an awkward angle to catch that glare. Okay, let me touch on the crease because I know a lot of you guys have that question and wonder how the hell can you use this device with the crease? The crease has got to bug you. It's got to be always in your face or always under your fingers. And the reality is that I genuinely forgot to even write this part into my script. I had to go back and add this section to remind myself that to those who have not had a folded device yet, a crease on a display is a problem. You got to think about it with, you know, if you have an iPhone or a Samsung, the notch on an iPhone was a huge, oh my goodness, I could never, and everyone got used to it. Now the island and the hole punch on your Samsungs is like, oh, that's great, but look at this hole in the middle of my display. You got used to it. And the same goes for the crease. You're gonna get used to the crease, and you will feel it in certain applications or depending on how you use it, but you get used to it. If you're watching your device straight on, that crease, if you pay attention, you can see it. But when you're watching what you're watching or doing what you're doing, you're not gonna see it. Just trust me. All right, so one thing that I don't believe is talked about enough when it comes to folding devices is how practical it is to have or use a foldable device. So let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. So for example, the apps that do take advantage of the inner display that are optimized for the inner display, the only advantage that you really get is just bigger display. You know, like you fit more onto the screen. And that's where you kind of question if it's really worth opening, you know, said optimized app to use the inner display. Now, for example, hear me out. If you're gonna Google something quick, like you need a quick answer to, like for example, what comes first, the milk or the cereal? The time it takes you to open your phone and then click Google and then close it again, you could have gotten your answer just by quickly, I guess, just using the front display. So in a situation like that, opening your device to just do a Google search for a quick answer, not really worth the time. But let's say you're using the Google Calendars app where you actually do get to see the events that are coming up on one side of the screen and then the full month on the other side, allowing you to really, you know, see what events you have coming up according to what days are left. There's multiple situations where you may benefit from having more screen space to see way more content or information on a display. But one practical way that I do personally utilize the inner display is multitasking. It's why I love Android so much, because it works better. I like to go ahead and script my my scripts on Notion while watching anime, and so because of the larger inner display, you essentially, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, but you get two front displays on top of each other, on bottom of each other. You get what I'm saying? You don't have like this little floating window where you're watching, you know, Naruto get beat while you're scripting. You have, again, two front displays next to each other. It's great. One thing I would like to mention about the folding aspect of the device that I genuinely, and you will too until you see it for yourself, thought was BS when other reviewers mentioned it. The fact that it doesn't fully open, like it just doesn't sit flush or flat like by default. You know, when you open the device, the resting point isn't a flat line. You have to press a little harder and give it that extra push in order for it to sit flat. And it's not every now and then that happens, it's all the time. Every time I open the phone, I've unfortunately developed a habit of pressing on the middle spine a little bit. And it's to this day, again, 6 months later, it's still kind of nerve-wracking. I'm getting used to it, but it's nerve-wracking thinking I might be pressing too hard. But I guess the plus side of that, if I'm trying to be optimistic, is that it showcases a strong hinge, which I do happen to use, you know, all the time, with it kind of half open to prop up my phone whenever I'm watching The Office at lunch. So, you know, there is that where you essentially have any angle kind of kickstand. We've also got a fingerprint scanner on the power button. There is face unlock with the Google Pixel Fold, but I'd say it only works about 60% of the time. Typically, it's due to lack of proper lighting or awkward angles. Don't expect it to be like Apple's Face ID, which to this day remains king when it comes to unlocking your phone with your face. Speaker quality. There isn't much to say. They're great speakers, stereo speakers, they work, they're loud. I don't want to waste your time giving you comparisons, because at the end of the day, to give it justice, you have to hear it for yourself. If you want some type of comparison to kind of think of, is if you have an iPhone, the iPhone speakers tend to be better, and to me, they're the best speakers on the phone. These aren't as good as iPhone speakers. I'd say they're more comparable to probably Samsung, so my S22 Ultra. They're kind of around that level of quality and I guess loudness. This is a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. It's been out for about a year now, and with the iPhone 14s out and your Google Pixel 7s, I figured I'd go Galaxy S22 Ultra. It's been out for about a year now, and with the iPhone 14s out and your Google Pixel 7s, I figured I'd go ahead and give you guys my thoughts on how the phone has performed over the course of a year. Battery. The battery on the Google Pixel Fold is unfortunately not the greatest. It's enough to get you through the day, no problem, but I can't trust in it to make it through a second day without charge. For example, on a heavy usage day, which for me would be a little bit of gaming, but mostly like editing and posting on social media, I'd say I'd probably get home to about 10% as far as, you know, making it to bed and going to sleep. On a lighter day where I'm just browsing through social media, I'd say I'd probably get home with 30% battery. Keep in mind that I don't really use the inner display as much as others may. So if I were to spend an entire day only utilizing the inner display, I probably wouldn't make it to bed alive. The phone, that is. The bed would be fine. I hope so. My phone would probably be dead. I hope I'd be fine too. Maybe that's just a video I need to make, you know, entire day of using the Google Pixel Fold with only inner display just to kind of test out the battery. Let me know if that's something you guys would like to see in the comments down below. Needless to say, if I happen to be going out all day and have no access to any power or chargers of any sorts, I am very cautious with my consumption and am pretty quick to throw it into battery saver mode. And as for charging speeds, we've got 7.5 watts of wireless charging and then up to 21 watts via USB-C. Performance and gaming. Performance on the Google Pixel Fold has been great so far. There hasn't been a single task that this device couldn't really handle, from editing to gaming to multitasking to just waking me up for my job. The Google Pixel Fold has 12 gigs of RAM and is using the Tensor G2 chip. Like I mentioned before, I do edit on the device some of my social media content, and this phone has no issues tackling those edits. I also use the Blink app, which auto-generates text for my videos, which does take some processing, and again, I didn't really see any issues there. As for gaming, I haven't really had any issues there as well. But first off, Call of Duty, no issues bumping up all the settings to maximum, no dropped frame rates or overheating battery on my end. And as for Genshin Impact, I was able to also play those on max settings. Both games did get warm over time, but I think that's normal with any device in general. I just barely getting that sunset here, the last of golden hour. So I figured for this part of the video that I address the cameras on the Google Pixel Fold with the cameras on the Google Pixel Fold. So let me go ahead and go through the specs real quick and then give you quick opinions on each lens. All right, so first off, the main shooter, which is what you're seeing right now. So we've got 48 megapixels on the main shooter with an aperture set to 1.7 and a 1/2 inch image sensor size, giving you the best quality that I think you've ever seen on a foldable device, I think. Next up is the wide angle that you're seeing right now. So for the wide angle lens, we have 10.8 megapixels ultra wide angle lens with an aperture set at 2.2 and a 1/3 image sensor size. All right, now what you're looking at is the telephoto 10.8 megapixel 5x. That's why we're this close on my eyeballs. But here's other stuff in telephoto. But with the telephoto, it's a dual pixel density telephoto lens with an aperture set at 3.0. That's pretty much it. Again, this is extending my arm as far as I can to see my pretty eyes. Okay, switching over to the front-facing camera, which is 9.5 megapixels and an aperture set at 2.2. Solid, very solid looking front-facing. 4K, 30 frames a second, which is what you're seeing right now. And then on to the final camera, camera number 5. All right, so lastly, the inner camera, which is weird to say, but the camera that's on the inside of the device, as in when you unfold it. The unfortunate truth with this one is that it does not shoot 4K. You're seeing it right now in 1080p or full HD. I don't really ever use this camera. As you can see, the quality's fine, but at 1080p, when in comparison you have 4K as, you know, your standard nowadays, the only reason I can see myself ever using this inner display or inner camera of the phone is whenever I maybe do Zoom calls, which I never do on my phone. That might be it. But hey, it's there as an option, which is better than none, I guess. Oh, and it's set at 8 megapixels with an aperture of 2.0. Not bad. Now, I'd love to talk more about these cameras on the Google Pixel Fold, but unfortunately, I feel like this video is long enough as is. So if you'd like to see a video about the cameras alone, let me know in the comments down below, and I'd be glad to make it. Social media and UI. User interface. All right, so this subject in particular matters to me a lot. It doesn't matter to a lot of you, but I've learned with my previous review on the S22 Ultra within the comments that a lot of you guys either A, disagree entirely with what I'm saying, or B, just don't care enough. That's okay, that's all valid. I'm just gonna give you my opinion. I mean, that's why you're here. So my gripe with Android devices in general, and I want to clarify, I am not on either side. I have both an Apple device and an Android device. I actually have 2 Android devices. I love phones, period. But from what I've seen, when it comes to Android devices, one of my gripes is that whenever I use the main cameras for just taking pictures, they look great. But whenever I use those cameras within an app like Instagram, they don't look great. The footage tends to come out grainy or unbalanced in color. I don't know, just something about the way that the apps utilize the cameras is not correct. It doesn't do it any justice. I don't see that with the Google Pixel Fold. I actually have friends that don't even realize I'm on an Android device. They honestly thought I was still on an iPhone, and then until they text me and realize that's a green bubble. So with that, I give the Google Pixel Fold a pass on the social media experience. You know, it's slick, smooth, buttery, and most high-end flagship Android devices are. Camera-wise, got a pass from me. So to continue the fluidity and slickness of the experience with the Google Pixel, that goes across the entire UI. This phone feels nice and snappy, and honestly, the word I'd like to stick with is it feels fluid, you know? It's like water, as Bruce Lee said. There's a lot of little things about this phone and how it operates that really shows Google's attention to detail. Like every time you wake or sleep the device, you see the screen do this circular fade in and out from the power button. Or whenever I'm watching YouTube videos inside my home and get into my car and switch over to music, you can hear the YouTube video audio fade out as the music itself fades in seamlessly.
A 3.5, a 1, and a 3. Thank goodness this is not a liter. Total for 7.5. You know how you're thing I really don't like about them is they taste
the same fluidity is seen when opening the device. You get the same fade effect, only this time from the center crease to the edges as the device wakes. It's these little things that make this UI experience a great one. Whew. All right, change of scenery. Final thoughts on the Google Pixel Fold. So how do I feel on the Google Pixel Fold? And also, who do I think this device is for? So as someone who was pretty dead set on the fact that only Apple could fulfill my picky need for a slick and smooth UI, a solid tool to have in my pocket for whenever I need a good camera on the go, media player to watch my stuff on, or just, you know, a note taker. I can honestly say that I've finally found what I believe to be the right Android device to finally make me switch over to the dark side, or the bright side, light side, white side. Ooh. My point is, I think I finally found the Android device to switch over from Apple. A device that not only has won my trust and confidence to the point where I keep my SIM card inside of it, but one that I'm actually eager and excited to use on a daily basis. It's been 6 months, I'm still excited to use it every day. I still look forward to finding reasons to unfold it, and I look forward to apps that finally optimize for the inner display. And that's why for now, I'm keeping my SIM card in the Google Pixel Fold, and I'm finally laying to rest my iPhone. In fact, I've actually wiped it clear and gave it to my wife, because for this entire year, I'm sticking to Android and I'm sticking to the Google Pixel Fold. As for who I think this device is for, this is definitely for tech enthusiasts and anyone just in general that is eager to try something different. Anyone that's been curious about folding devices, or perhaps just anyone that's been feeling the staleness of your standard candy bar phone. For those that have been lucky enough to find a great deal with your respective carriers. Oh, and lastly, for anyone that maybe has been debating whether getting a new phone or perhaps putting their money towards a tablet, yeah, this is both. I do not recommend this phone for anyone that doesn't care for the latest and greatest in tech. Those that happen to spend a lot of their time in sandy or dusty environments. Unfortunately, the beach life just was not made for the Google Pixel Fold, or maybe any folding device. And lastly, for anyone that loves to save money, because unfortunately this thing's expensive and debatably just not worth it. So unless you've got $1,800 to just spend and not have to worry about anything else, by all means go for it. But if you like your money, this isn't the phone for you, unfortunately. And that is my review on the Google Pixel Fold. If you guys have any questions about this beautiful folding device, let me know in the comments down below. Or perhaps you already have one. Maybe you have a folding device, period. Or maybe you just want to tell me what phone you have right now and what you would like to get down the road. All of that, please. I love talking with you guys. You guys are awesome. Let me know in the comments. I will be back for a 1-year review. So 6 more months from now, a 1-year review on the Pixel Fold and how it's done over the course of a year. If you guys want to see that, make sure you like and subscribe. And I believe the coolest that people turn on that bell icon. I don't know, I don't make the rules, that's just what I've heard. Thank you guys for taking the time to see what I see, and I hope 2023 wraps up nicely for you guys, and I hope 2024 is even better. Trust me, every year you gotta get better, and 2024 is gonna be better for everyone. Take care, guys.